All right, everybody, we're going to read our Torah reading for this week. The complete Torah reading is Leviticus 12:1 to 15:33. And we've been doing this every morning after the prayer. We're up to chapter 15. You want to open that of Leviticus? And Yah spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and you shall say to them, to any man, when there is a discharge from his flesh, it is unclean because of his flesh. And this is his uncleanness in the issue. If his flesh has run with his issue, or if his flesh has coursed from issue, it is his uncleanness. Every bed on which the issue one lies shall be unclean, and everything on which he sits shall be unclean. And anyone who touches his bed shall wash his garments, and shall bathe with water, and shall be unclean until evening. And he who sits on a thing on which he who discharges sat shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and shall be unclean until evening. And he that touches the flesh of him who discharges shall wash his clothes and bathe him in water and be unclean until evening. And he who spits on a clean one, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. And every saddle on which he who discharges rides shall be unclean. And whoever touches anything that was under him shall be unclean until the evening. And the one carrying those things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean till evening. Verse 11. And whomever he who has discharged touches and has not rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until evening. And the earthen vessel that he who discharges touches shall be broken, and every wooden vessel shall be rinsed in water. And when he who discharges is cleansed of the issue, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and he shall bathe in his flesh in running water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take to himself 2 turtle doves, or 2 young doves, and come before Yah to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and give them to the priest. And the priest shall offer one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall atone for him, because Yah shall atone for him before Yah for his discharge. And if any man's semen goes out from him, then he shall bathe all his flesh in water, and be unclean until evening. And every garment and every skin on which the semen is shall be washed with water and be unclean until evening. And the woman with whom a man lies with an emission of semen shall bathe in water and be unclean until evening. And if a woman's issue is her flesh, if a woman's issue in her flesh is a flow of blood, she shall be in her impurity 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening. And anything on which she lies in her impurity shall be unclean, and anything on which she sits shall be unclean. And whoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. And whoever touches anything on which she sits shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until evening. And if it is on the bed or on anything on which she sits, when he touches it, he shall be unclean until the evening. And if lying any man lies with her, and her impurity is on him, He shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed on which he lies shall be unclean. And if a woman has an issue of her blood many days outside the time of her impurity, or if she issues beyond the time for her impurity, all of the days of the issue of her uncleanness, she shall be as in the days of her impurity. She is unclean. Every bed on which she lies, all the days of her issue shall be to her as the bed of her impurity to her. And everything on which she sits shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her impurity. And whoever touches those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until evening. We're up to verse 28. And if she is cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. And on the 8th day so shall take to herself and 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves, and bring them to the priest, to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall atone for her before Yah for the issue for uncleanness. So you shall separate the sons of Israel from their uncleanness, and they shall not die in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is in their midst. This is the law of him that discharges, and of him whose semen goes out for uncleanness by it, and for her who menstruating in her impurity, and of him from whom the issue goes, of a male or a female, and a man who lies with an unclean woman. All right, that was the end of chapter 15, and that was the Torah reading for this next week. There's a lot there to discuss, so read it and be ready with your questions to discuss them wherever you celebrate Shabbat and they read the Torah reading. Everybody, thank you for your prayers. Please keep this ministry in prayer. Have a blessed day, everybody. Yah be with you all. Shalom, shalom.